Good morning. I have done something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we're not going to have the same intro anymore because I have royally messed that up. Today is February 17th. We have flown through February. I don't know why it always feels like this every single year. January takes like 3 years, and then February comes and it just disappears right out from under us. I'm going to let y'all know I'm very sorry for not getting on here to come talk to you. I have not had a whole lot going on, but I kind of have had a lot going on just personally, where my own self is holding myself not accountable, and I'm not allowing myself to get on here and record. There have been days in the last 3 or 4 weeks where I just stayed in bed and got up just to like straighten up the house right before my family got home from school and work. And then our kids' school celebrates Mardi Gras, and so they get the whole week off next week for Mardi Gras. So I spent a lot of time working on little Coureur de Mardi Gras pants, which is the chicken run. I probably said that wrong, but it's the chicken run pants, which is strips of fabric that are sewn, glued, or heat bonded onto pants, and then you cut strips, and so it makes like this frayed scarecrow kind of look. And the history behind that is really kind of cool. I don't know exactly what started it, but the whole thing behind the masks and the costumes that have to do with this specific tradition are that anybody could make a costume and wear it and put their hat on and put their mask on, and nobody would know who they were. So like doctors could go and work with, not go and work, doctors and lawyers and like professors and upstanding people in society like that have very big business degrees could go and celebrate Mardi Gras with people that don't have any degree, like even people that probably may not have graduated high school or come close. And so you didn't know who was who, and so it just made it this big party for everybody. And what they do is they call it the chicken run, and we went in 2020. It was really cool. The Mardi Gras is a group of people, and it's men and women, and they dress in these costumes head to toe, like frayed fabric just blowing in the wind. They make the most obnoxious, like amazingly obnoxious masks. They make hats. I cannot think of what the hat is called, but they have like the big is it a dunce hat? Is that what it used to be called? The dunce that had to sit in the corner when they were in trouble from school. And they put this big pointed hat on their head. Or some of them have hats that look like graduation caps, and they decorate them. You should go look it up. The Chicken Run. We went to the Mermentau Cove at our friend's house, and they started at like 7:30 in the morning, like 7:30 in the morning. They all get on tractor trailers. They get in horse trailers. They ride horses. They walk. They get on, like, they just start partying. I don't know, it's 7:30 in the morning, and they go from one house to the next in the community, and at every house there's people there waiting for them, like it's pre-planned. There's people there waiting for them, and they pick up ingredients for a gumbo that they're going to cook in the town square later that evening. So they bring the chicken or chickens with them, and they sing like traditional French Cajun songs, and they play the accordions and the violins, and the captain of the Mardi Gras has on his robe, and he rides on his horse like just this valiant knight, and he's got these other guys in his court that help him keep the Mardi Gras. They call all the people the Mardi Gras. This is what I picked up on. They keep them in line because they're troublemakers. They're nuisance makers. They climb on top of the people's barns, and they climb on top of their houses, and they beat the sides of the metal barns, and they want you to throw pennies and money to them, and they want to collect money, and they'll come up and beg. They'll hold their hands out, and they'll point in their hands. And when we went, the twins were just a year and a half. Well, they were born in 18, so they weren't even No, we went in 20. So they were a year and a half old, almost 2 years old. We went in 2020. Miller and Oliver would have been about 4 and 5, and Cooper would have been about 8 or 9. 9 or 10. I don't know. This was 3 years ago. So he would have been 9. And they had no idea what to expect. Like, we've been to Mardi Gras parades in, like, New Orleans and Lake Charles. They knew what that was like, but never once ever had we experienced something like that. So that was really cool. And, like, I don't know if you know that the Cajun people tie into the Acadians of Canada. Like, that's where the French Cajun comes from. It's French Canada. I can't even say it all. It's a tongue twister. So I did my research like a couple years ago because I was just so intrigued by all of this. So that's where the Cajun tradition, the Cajun name comes from, is from Acadiana, Canada. Hopefully I got all this right. If you're from here and I didn't get this right, let me know. But I feel like I got most of it right because I did a lot of research a couple years ago. Anyways, we had the most fun I think we have ever had. Like, that was just, it was so cool to go see that. So that, the kids, back to the point, the kids had their little Mardi Gras parade and chicken run at school this week. And that was just really cool for them. Because they love doing stuff like that, and it's very child oriented, and it's very, the kids just, they have a great time. And the teachers and the principals did it. Like, it just shows that we have a really cool school that they go to. I'm actually trying to find this episode. I typed up I've been typing it up to try to keep my brain on track because I am not, I'm not task oriented. I'm not goal oriented. I'm not anything, like, not much motivates me. I have to borrow motivation. I have to borrow, like, energy from just anything to get anything done. I cannot sit and make myself get anything done. So I sat at the GMC dealership last week because what had happened? Oh, my engine started sounding like an airplane. And whenever we would turn the car off, it would just, like, go crazy. It would just be like, going crazy like that. So I had to take it to the GMC dealership. I called, I made an appointment, I showed up, and I had several hours to pass time because I went at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and my kids were in school. And so I had lots of time to people watch and sit and write out. So this is just what I wrote. It's 3,911 words. if that helps you understand, like, if I am forced to sit down and write something, I can write it all out. And if I have nothing else to do, like if I'm at home, I'm not going to do anything. So I don't know. Have you ever heard the expression, "What's your name?" And you answer, "Putty Tame, ask me again and I'll tell you the same." Like, you say, "What's your name?" "Putty Tame, ask me again and I'll tell you the same." My grandparents used to say this all the time, and I've been teaching it to my kids to say. So people used to ask them their name all the time when we were out and about in public, and I would try to get them to say that, but they never would because I didn't want people to know what their name was, honestly. But Darcy came home from school the other day telling me she did not want to be called Darcy anymore. She wanted to go by 2 names, holding up her 2 fingers in a peace sign. And I asked, "Darcy, what do you want to be called? Marcy Day? Do you want to be called Dainty May?" And she agreed that both are a good name, and she wants to be called both of those names from now on, Marcy Day or Dainty May. She didn't, Marcy Day, because her name is Darcy May. So Marcy Day or Dainty May. And I just got to thinking, kids are so sweet. Like, they're just so sweet. Darcy, just a minute ago when I was inside, turned on, like, Maury. I think it's called Steve Wilkos. We get antenna channels on our camper. And so Darcy turned on the Steve Wilkos show. And she goes, "Mama, is this church?" And I said, "No, baby, it's not." So she moved on to couples court. And she goes, "Is this one church?" I said, "No, baby, that's not church either." So finally she made it on through. But we look at kids like they're such a nuisance and an inconvenience because that's how we're told to look at them. Have you ever watched a show? Well, have you watched a show recently where the kids are not a problem? Like Little House on the Prairie, the kids are part of the family and they're treated like with respect and dignity. But I haven't really watched many shows where the kids aren't treated in some sort of just unfair playing field. I don't know. Anyways, I feel very guilty over being a mama who gets annoyed easily, especially out in public. There was a mama that was at the car dealership who I thought she was a younger mama, and she had a 3 or so-year-old little boy. Like, he was very young looking. And she said to him under her breath, "You are really getting on my nerves right now. You need to settle down." And oh my dear, I just wanted to start talking to that little boy to distract him and give his mama a break. Later on, because I was there a couple of hours and she was too, she told another man that she had a leased vehicle. Come to find out, she's older than I am. Like, she had great skin. She said she was 35. Her husband was like 36. I don't know why she was telling him all this. Probably like me. We just get to talking and we over talk and overshare. But her little boy was 5 years old. He just turned 5 and he was going to kindergarten next year. You're going to have to, or she just kept saying, "You're going to have to sit down. When you go to school, you're going to have to sit down and be quiet. You need to do that here. You need to practice that here." Oh, goodness. We're in a place and a time where I can't even be like, "Hey, little boy, come talk to me," because that's creepy, okay? Parents are very protective. I know I am. If anyone tries to talk to my kids in public, I automatically go into autopilot safety mode where I'm on guard from them like being kidnapped and trafficked. My brain goes from 0 to 90 like that, even in a car dealership waiting room. But like I said in my last podcast, I used to get very annoyed and aggravated with my kids just being kids. I've taken away a lot of the joys and freedoms they experienced as kids because of my strictness, if that's what you want to call it. But I think a lot of my parenting yours has just been fight or flight responses for having so many kids in such a short period of time. For a long time, I was in the thick of motherhood. Cooper was 4.5 years old when Miller was born, so he had a really loose, like, only child, only grandchild, early childhood. Then, 4.5 years later, after Cooper was born, Miller was born, and then Oliver was born 1 year and 1 month and 8 days later, and then the twins were born less than 2 years after that. We were in deep. I was in deep. 4 kids under 3 years old, plus Cooper. As the years have passed, we've done a really decent amount of traveling for Albert's job, and then, of course, the year the world shut down. We've done homeschool and public school and a homeschool co-op where Cooper went to school 2 days a week. My poor kids have had little to no consistency, and I just keep convincing myself that they're resilient and will turn out to be well-rounded grown-ups because of it. But is that really true? Do I really believe that's true? I'm really not sure at this point. The reason I'm not sure is because we've had to do, like, damage control over the inconsistencies, and I feel like a failure. Of course, why wouldn't I? There was a post I read or watched recently saying how kids have different parents. If there's more than one child in a family, if they even have the same mama and daddy, they get a different mother and a different father than the other children. Meaning, in my case, when I had Cooper, I was 20 years old. I was so young. Albert was only 24 years old. We had no business becoming a mom and daddy that young. We were so selfish, but we wanted Cooper to have absolutely everything under the sun. He needed all the gadgets and the toys and the best of the best. I've taken away a lot of the things that he's had since then because we really overloaded him, I feel like, and that set him up kind of for failure. But when Miller came along, I was 24 years old, a little bit older, but not much. I'd completed nursing school and I was working as a registered nurse, still very immature, to be honest, but more mature than I was at 20 years old. Miller got most of Cooper's hand-me-downs, not because we couldn't afford new clothes, but I literally kept everything I had from Cooper. Miller was barely 5 months old when we found out we were pregnant with Oliver. I remember feeling so irresponsible, like silly for becoming pregnant again so soon. What would people think? What would they say? Miller didn't get to enjoy his mama very much because I was working and I was pregnant and exhausted. Cooper was in kindergarten, and that was a task in and of itself for all of us. I lived at my parents' house because we had left our duplex to move to Baton Rouge when Miller was 4 weeks old. And then Albert moved us back to Mississippi, and he went to Texas for work, and we barely saw him. Then Oliver was born the week of Christmas. Thank goodness for pictures. Like, if I can find the pictures, because I don't remember much of those 2 years. Postpartum depression and anxiety was a capital B for me during Oliver's newborn phase. Albert came home the week before Oliver was born. We had him, we had Christmas, then Albert left to work in Iowa. If I had not been on the sane side of the teeter-totter, I likely would have shaken him. It was that bad. I even told my doctor that because I worked with her. And I was like, I completely understand why parents shake their children. Oliver never stopped crying. He cried for 11 months. Albert burnt his bridge. He came back to Mississippi to work. He burned his bridge in Iowa because he told him he had to come home and help his wife. And the man said, his boss said, oh yeah, man, do whatever you can to keep your family, like, good and together. And, like, told him, like, empathized with him how he regretted treating his family and how he regretted getting a divorce and not being there. But anyways, he burned that bridge. He never answered Albert's phone again. When we moved back to Iowa, we saw the man in Walmart getting groceries, and he turned around and walked the other way. Like, it was that weird. Anyways, when Oliver was about 3 years old, we all lived in my parents' house. A family of 5 living with my parents. Thankfully, they had a big house. I love my parents. That's just one of those never again scenarios. They were so gracious to allow us to live in their home so many times over the years, but it's one of those things I want to avoid if I can ever help it. My daddy will tell you, though, that he would love for us to move back in because they love having the grandkids close by. But honestly, it feels like the ultimate failure when you have to go back to your parents' house as a married grown-up with children. Obviously, you're not a failure, and we weren't failures. We just couldn't figure out where we wanted to be, if we were going to stay in a camper or a house, and we knew we wanted to get out of Meridian eventually. The Lord was with us in all those steps, looking back, because lots of plans were being made, and we looked at several rentals, but for whatever reason, nothing ever worked out for us, like literally every single time. Then, when Oliver was about 6 months old, 6 months shy of 2 years old, we found out we were pregnant with twins. That was a whirlwind, y'all, because this was my 4th baby. I figured I would just wait. I can go a little bit further along until I'm around 14 or so weeks before going to the doctor. I'd worked with an OBGYN. I felt pretty confident that I could go closer to the 2nd trimester before going to see a midwife. In Lake Charles, there's an amazing midwife who does home births, which are legal. Before you tune me out because you're anti-home birth, just hang on a minute, okay? We scheduled an appointment with this midwife, and Albert took off work so he could go with me. We chatted about what home birth looked like and how my pregnancy would go. It would be totally non-invasive. Like, that's exactly what I wanted. I'd already given birth to 2 out of 3 babies weighing over 9 pounds in the hospital. I was pretty confident in myself that I'd be fine. The only thing was, I had to be checked by a physician to be cleared as a healthy pregnancy that could be seen for midwifery for the remainder of my pregnancy. I remember scheduling my appointment with this cocky attitude, like, I'm going to do a home birth. I just need to go see the doctor one time, and we will be fine. Miller and Oliver were 1 and 2 years old, and we went to the doctor. Cooper was in school, and Albert was at work. How hard could this be? In and out, right? Like, been there, done that, we're good. My sweet doctor came in, and we went to do an ultrasound in the office, and she held the ultrasound wand on my belly. I was around 13 or 14 weeks. There was a sweet baby. Arms, legs, like the whole baby could be seen. It wasn't the little blob. It wasn't the little squirrel. It was a full baby. And then I said, wait, did you just hit a duplicate button? My eyes strained, and then they grew wide. Did you hit a duplicate button? I asked. sweet, sweet, naive me knew it was twins, 2 babies. I was so embarrassed. I asked if I was supposed to cry or cuss. We wrapped up our appointment and I was in complete shock. Like, this OBGYN, by the way, is still in Lake Charles working, and she's amazing. Like, she's so kind and helpful and level-headed and calm. Like, we were where we needed to be for this. Anyways, I texted Albert, or called him, I don't remember, and I was like, meet me at the gate in a few minutes, as I left the doctor's office and drove over to his work. Poor Albert, with no context as to what was going on, he's walking to the gate preparing this speech about miscarriage and how we'll get through it. We had done it twice before. We would be okay. He wanted to comfort me. He was comforting himself too, with his own words, because our losses in miscarriage affected him more emotionally than they did me in the past. So he gets to my Honda Odyssey minivan, and I hand him the ultrasound strip. He looked at it, and he looked at me. What's this? He asked. It's twins, Albert. It's twins. I look back and I think about how I was nervously laughing, crying, eyes wide open, not sure what emotion was appropriate. Twins. Twins was all he said to me for the next 2 weeks. We didn't have any real good conversations. Like, he could barely just muster twins. The week I found out I was pregnant, I also had started a brand new job at a hospital across town. I was so embarrassed. Like, I'm telling y'all, I was ashamed to be pregnant again. What would people think? But I was embarrassed that I took a job and became pregnant, and I was hiding it, and I grew and I grew and I grew, and I still tried hiding the fact that it was twins. Like, I knew and nobody else knew, and I was scared to tell them. So I love my babies, love them, and I especially love that we had twins now, but I really felt truly irresponsible when we found out we were having twins. Like, how did we make that happen? So, and the other conversation is, are they identical? Well, one has a penis and one has a vagina. You tell me. No, they're not identical. 2 totally separate children. There's nothing identical about them. There's a boy and a girl. Identical means you split from the same egg at some point. One egg turns into 2 babies. That was not what we had. So, before y'all are like, that's your little science lesson for today. Identical is when one egg turns into 2. Fraternal is when 2 eggs drop down at the same time and both get fertilized. And they both got fertilized. One with a boy and one with a girl. Okay? So, then we had to start, I walked around. Sorry, I'm way off course now. So, walking around the hall at work, caring for my patients, trying to appear stronger than I was, I ended up having to stop working around 28 weeks because I was measuring twice as big. I couldn't properly care for my patients as much as I felt like I was helping support our family financially, which is such a scam for families. Like, it's just life is just crazy in that sense. So then we had to start going to the specialized ultrasounds to make sure that they were growing and looking good. Albert took off to go to a couple appointments because twins. He went to the one where they could tell us what we were having, and I did not want to know. Oliver was a surprise baby, and we found out what he was when he was born, and I wanted to do the same thing for the twins. Albert, however, did not. He needed to know, were we having 2 more boys, or were we going to get 2 girls? What if they're identical, and how would we tell them apart? Like, that was Albert's biggest fear. What if they're identical and I confuse them and I can't remember who's who? We get 2 of the exact same kids. We still didn't feel like we were totally responsible parents of our own children, and now we're getting 2 more. Yes, it was crazy. But basically, once we went to this ultrasound, Albert made it very clear we needed to know exactly what we were getting into. That's when we found out we were having our sweet girl and another boy. 4 boys and 1 girl. Of course, we wouldn't change anything now, except for the fact that I got my tubes tied during delivery, which we'll talk about another time. For 2 weeks after that, All Albert could say to me was, a girl. Like he couldn't believe it. Every time I went to the special ultrasound doctor or Dr. Porche, he would tell me, check again, check again. He was in disbelief. Back to the point. Was there a point here? I don't know. I honestly don't know where I was going with all that. Okay. Other than that, now we're almost 5 years since the twins were born, and I'm having to relearn who I am as a person. Not just as a mother, but as a person. I'm their protector, their caregiver, their gatekeeper, the one who will always be there. But I can't be there if I don't even know who I am. Oh, now that the fog is clearing on babies, I see that I've spent many years being upset with them. Just being regular kids and doing normal kid things. If I could go back, I definitely would not be so hard on them. Sitting down and shutting up. Just sit down and shut up. That's what I would tell them. That's not fair for kids. And it hasn't been fair for me to pressure myself to have the appearance of perfect kids or the perfect family. My kids over the years have not gotten the same mama. My older children are getting a different mama than when they were babies, and that's okay. In fact, I think it's good. I've learned and realized that children are a gift. Even when life is stressful, their behavior is not always indicative of my parenting styles or how they're being raised, but I've learned the more calm and caring I am to them, the better their behavior is. When I constantly nag them to sit down and shut up, guess what they normally do? They act up. Or I totally break their spirit. The Bible reminds us, fathers, and then I put in parentheses, mothers, come on, do not provoke or aggravate your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline, also instruction or training of the Lord. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. And also, fathers, mothers, do not embitter your children or they will become discouraged. That's Colossians 3 verse 21. Don't break their spirit. We can't nag them over and over again and expect them to do better. We have to practice patience, especially with our children, but kindness as well, gentleness, all the fruits of the Spirit. As we're going through some really hard situations with our kids, I have to remind myself that the more I nag and provoke them, they hide and sneak and keep their mouths shut. As much as I want to be like, don't be stupid and you won't have stupid consequences. I look back growing up where I was stupid and made stupid choices that resulted in stupid consequences. Now I'm pivoting and learning to be a different mother. Yet again, because my children need me to be their lamppost. I'm the one they're going to come to when they feel lost. Of course, Jesus is who they need, but I'm their earthly safety blanket. I'm the one that should embrace them and work through these hard times, even if that means with terribly hard consequences. Sometimes the terribly hard consequences are having to hug me for 10 Mississippis because the last thing they want to do is to be near me. That's my punishment. It breaks my heart, but I'm breaking some chains I've wrapped myself up in over my lifetime. We recently began doing something I learned the other day called a non-flinch response, meaning if they want to tell me, and by they, honestly, I just mean Cooper right now because he's 12. If he wants to tell me something that he's afraid I'm going to be upset over, and I need to hear it, like he needs to tell me, I have to agree to not flinching and losing my cool, because losing my cool turns into losing control, which turns into running my mouth, which turns into potentially breaking their spirit and losing their trust. My kids, just like my husband, is not my enemy. Satan's my enemy, and he's trying to wedge his ugly self between me and my children because he knows I'm a mama bear that will fight tooth and nail to do whatever is right. The other week we had to go to the school for a behavior correction, and I remember sitting there almost wanting to laugh. I was in disbelief over what had happened and why I had been called to the school. But my child admitted fault and we had to take action. As much as I wanted to scream and belittle them, I had to compose myself. This will be an ongoing stretch of my faith and patience because Lord knows how hard it is raising growing kids in today's world, but we're going to make it. We're going to get creative with discipline, but not so much that they're going to be beating the door down to run out at 18 years old. Well, Maybe they'll still do that, because Cooper already talks about getting himself an enclosed trailer to convert to a bedroom, and he'll just pay to have it hot-shotted wherever we move to. But, 12-year-olds have thousands of dollars just laying around. So he thinks he can do whatever he wants to do. We're working through this. But this all just kind of flowed out with no rhyme or reason, except learning and realizing that children are a gift from God, and we're to sharpen them over the course of their years in our home as arrows. Then, when it's time to shoot them out and to do the Lord's work, they can do it in their own lives. Me and my mama were on the phone the other day, and I was saying I don't know how I'm going to get through raising them to grown-ups and then just letting them go out into the world. My mama says she worries about me more than she does my brother and sister. And honestly, I thought she was going to say she doesn't know how I'm still alive and kicking. I made so many screw-ups growing up and disappointed my parents daily. Yet here I am at 33 years old, and my mama trusts me to be out in the world raising my own family. That's hard for me to accept. And we're talking about me. Like, we're not even talking about my children. We're talking about me, already grown. I guess that just shows how the Lord works in ways that we don't understand, but always for His glory. I love what 1 Timothy 4 says, starting in verse 1. The Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teaching come through hypocritical liars, whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. They forbid people to marry and order them to abstain from certain foods which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and who know the truth. For everything God created is good, and nothing is rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it is consecrated by the word of God and prayer. Verse 6. If you point these things out to the brothers and sisters, you will be a good minister of Jesus Christ, nourished on the truths of the faith and of the good teaching that you have followed. Have nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales. Rather, train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things. Hold in promise for both the present life and the life to come. This is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. That is why we labor and strive, because we have put our hope in the living God, who is the Savior of all people, and especially of those who believe. Verse 11. Command and teach these things. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Until I come, devote yourself to the public reading of Scripture, to preaching and teaching. Do not neglect your gift, which was given to you through prophecy when the body of elders laid their hands on you. Be diligent in these matters. Give yourself wholly to them, so that everyone may see your progress. Watch your life and doctrine closely. Persevere in them, because if you do, you will save both yourself and your hearers. What a word. If there's anything I want to be praying over my children, it's this. I mean, there's obviously a lot I want to be praying over through them. But wow, I want my children to see and know a new mama. Their mama who truly and wholly trusted Jesus to get us through the hard times. The mama who made the best of them having to all share a bedroom in a tiny 400 square foot camper. The mama who really wanted to see them as best friends and not just siblings. The mama who carefully and lovingly corrected and not just barked commands to sit down and shut up. This, I feel like, is how we change generations. Our poor world is in such turmoil, and I see the burden of all the people around us because Jesus has been put on the back burner. There once was a time when I was a little girl, even not very long ago, where being a good Christian man or a woman was favored in the workplace and in schools. And we can see how quickly that has changed. Even as a grown-up, it's taken me a long time to see it this way, and I don't want to be a stick-in-the-mud person that doesn't agree with the things of the world, but I truly am an empath of the people around me. but I also don't want to spend an eternity in a lake of fire. Heaven is my only hope, and it's the only hope for my children and my family, and I will do what I can to secure that. Children are a gift, no matter how many or how few you have. Even if you don't have children, you have influence over the children you meet and spend time with, even if it's just in passing. I remember strangers from when I was a kid that left a mark in my memory, whether that be good or bad. If you've ever found yourself in a position like I've described today, I want you to know that you are not alone and you are not a bad mama. The other night I was pity partying to Albert about how I'm a terrible mother and I feel like I'm actively ruining the kids. And he came back with telling me I obviously am doing something right, because why else would they want hugs and kisses every night? Why do they still come to me even after I've punished them or yelled? Because they love me. Kids are so pure, we don't deserve them for the goodness they truly display in our lives. We were given the responsibility of raising babies into arrows to shoot out into the world. They are good. Change your mindset if you can't see that. I've had to change my mindset. I promise. I've had to consciously decide that they're not my enemies and they're not out to get me or destroy my peace of mind. I was just parenting from fight or flight, and they weren't getting the best of me. Nobody was. So I hope you found this message encouraging, entertaining, enlightening. I don't know, all the things. Something good, right? Something good's going to come out of it, and it's going to be good. I believe in that, and I needed to read this again today because today's the day my kids are off of school, and Lord knows they've been getting on my nerves. Y'all know. But if you have any questions or comments, go find me on Patreon. You can leave a comment. I think you can leave a comment on Podbean as well. Come find me on Facebook or Instagram at Life with the Clarks. I'm not really fun over at Instagram anymore. I have a love-hate relationship with that platform and social media in general, but definitely come find me, connect with me. Let's be friends. And this week I was drinking, or for this podcast, I was drinking hot tea. I want to start sharing what I'm drinking with y'all because I feel like that's what podcasters do. And I'm trying to be a good podcaster over here. I'm drinking hot tea with golden turmeric, and it is herbal tea. That's lemon and ginger, and then I did an orange and cinnamon one as well. So I did that. I added some collagen and some cow's colostrum, all the weird things I added in there. But anyways, if you want to support our podcast, definitely go check out Patreon or send me a message, share, like, comment, all the things. I feel kind of icky asking you to support in any form or fashion because I feel like it'll just take off however, but I have to tell you what to do so you know how to do it. So go like, share, comment, tell your friends about it. Have a great weekend. And it is February 17th. We're going to get through this weekend. Mardi Gras is next week, and it's going to be a good week. We're going to Mississippi. Maybe I can record something from over there. I love y'all. I hope you have a great week. Bye-bye now.